Hello everyone, William here, and I am here to talk about American Ninja Warrior Ninja vs. Ninja Qualifying 7 episode. So we're 7 episodes in. We're not even halfway done with the season, but let's get things started. Before we actually talk about the actual happenings of the episode, I feel like it's important to talk about the big time change. For those of you who don't know, Ninja vs. Ninja is now airing Monday nights at 11:05 p.m. And by 11:05, what they actually mean is immediately following Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw is a live show. It airs when it ends when it ends, basically. They're allowed to go over. Kind of like, you know, how like football or something would go over the original scheduled time frame. And one thing I was wondering is how would DVRs handle it? And a bit of a praise for USA Network, because I looked at my cable box and it lists Ninja vs. Ninja as airing from 11:05 p.m. to 12:15 a.m. So they give the show an hour and 10 minutes in the cable box in order to make sure that you're more likely to watch the whole thing if you would record it. Furthermore, I'm pretty sure they actually, change up the lengths of the commercials just to make sure that everything fits in and ends on time for that late night programming. And so I watched it live. I watched it as it was airing on TV because, I watch wrestling, so it was immediately following it. So it was convenient for me. And one thing that I think as a viewer that I found beneficial about the new time slot is that because it doesn't end it doesn't start exactly on the hour. It just starts at a random time. I think Raw ended at maybe 11:10 this time around. It became hard to figure out when the episode was actually going to end. So for example, just to kind of jump ahead to the end, I thought that I was going to get ready to talk about how I was right with my prediction that the Lizard Kings were going to win. I thought they were going to sweep the finals because I had lost track of time. And instead, I was wrong. But we'll get to that. It's a bit... Oh man, so I think it actually enhanced the viewing experience a little bit, in my opinion, because you don't have that predictable, oh, look at the clock thing. The other thing I want to talk about before I get started with the actual recap is the ratings. The ratings for this week's episode were the highest it's been all season, at about 759,000 viewers is what is being reported. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's still lower than every episode of Team Ninja Warrior Season 2, unfortunately. And this week of Raw was probably the best lead-in that Team Ninja Warrior is going to get for the rest of the season. Basically, for those who don't know, WrestleMania just happened, and so the Raw after WrestleMania is like a big season premiere. Is probably the best way to think of it. Fans watch, they always want to see, what's going to happen, what new things are going to happen, new storylines, who's going to show up, new characters are going to show up. It's crazy, The third hour of Raw, which is the one that led into Ninja vs. Ninja, had over 3.5 million viewers. So the drop-off is a bit high. It's a bigger drop-off than when Team Ninja Warrior followed SmackDown last year. So... it all comes down to what USA Network wants and what USA Network expects. But it's not a case of things are looking good. They're looking better, but I wouldn't say things are looking good yet ratings-wise. They might get a good lead-in next week because it's the Superstar Shakeup, which is it's a big deal if you're a WWE fan. For those of you who don't watch wrestling, it's a big event. That's the best way to say it, to explain it really quickly. So Raw will probably get good numbers again next week. I guess it's just a matter of how many people will stay to watch Ninja vs. Ninja. The good news is that it's always going to be a better lead-in than what it was getting prior on Thursday, which was literally nothing. But, and once again, we're not out of the woods, is basically the best way to put it. So, how much? Oh God, we're like 5 minutes in. Let's get things started before the sun goes down, because this is the second time I'm doing this review, and last time I spent so much time talking that the sun went down and everything was all dark. You couldn't see anything. It looked awful. So I'm redoing this, but I gotta hurry up before the sun goes down again. So for episode 7, the 7th qualifying episode, we had the crisscross ring toss and the flying shelf grab combo once again. First up, the Expendabulls versus the Lizard Kings. And first they had Kevin Bull. They talk about his alopecia stuff. It's always great that he's doing that. Always nice to see people doing charity work and helping people out. And he went up against Kyle Soderman. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kyle Soderman competed on season 2 of Ultimate Beastmaster, and he did well. I'm not going to say how well he did. I'll say he did well. You should definitely watch it if you haven't seen it. Kyle, so for his profile piece that they gave him, now I wasn't expecting them to acknowledge Ultimate Beastmaster. Ultimate Beastmaster doesn't acknowledge Ninja Warrior, although granted Kyle technically hadn't competed on, I'm pretty sure he didn't compete on Ninja Warrior beforehand. I could be wrong. At least he hasn't competed on American Ninja Warrior. He did the Ninja versus National Ninja League stuff. He was involved. Like you watch his profile on Beastmaster, you could see him doing Ninja Warrior stuff. They just didn't acknowledge it, basically. And so, I didn't expect him to call by name, but for the profile piece, they kept saying that his only Ninja Warrior experience is he was a course tester for past seasons of American Ninja Warrior. And it's that's technically true, but you're really underselling it. And maybe they're doing that on purpose. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird seeing Akbar go crazy about how well Kyle is doing when I knew a lot about Kyle. I saw him do well in National Ninja League. He overall does well in National Ninja League. I mean, he had that slip up in the finals this year, but overall he does well. It's just, I don't know. I guess it's kind of weird when it's kind of like when an indie band that you've known about for years, he reaches number 1 of the pop charts suddenly, and everyone's going on about this band. You're like, well, I mean, I knew how good they were all the time. It's kind of like this. I knew how good Kyle Soderman is for a while now, but I guess now more people are knowing. Anyway, so this was a good race, good first race. Basically, they get a little rustle and tussle on the ring toss. Kevin is able to kind of maneuver around on the rings, gets the lead at that point, but Kyle was able to do the shelf faster than Kevin, and Kevin was right behind him, literally right behind him, because Kevin went into Kyle's lane on the warped wall, but Kyle finished first. I'm interested what the ruling would have been if Kevin had accidentally gone off the wrong lane and hit Kyle's button. It probably would have been no big deal, but yeah, it would have been interesting if that happened. So Lizard Kings go up 1-0 in a shocking race, unless it's, you're familiar with Kyle. It wasn't that shocking. Then Maggi Thorne for the Expendabulls versus Sarah Schoback. They're both moms. Basically, Mag was able to get a lead early on the TikTok. Sarah had a little bit trouble on the net portion, a little slow. Basically, I can't even read this. Anyway, okay. Basically, Maggi finished the rings first. Sarah went down on the rings, and actually no, she went down on the tiles. My bad. What the hell did I write? Anyway, now Sarah trying to catch up fell on the tiles, but Maggi finished anyway. So third round, we already know we're having at least one relay. Thaddeus Robeck for the Expendabulls versus Hunter Guerard. Oddly enough, neither of these guys got an interview section for their fluff pieces. Very, very interesting in that regard. Basically, right from the start, Thaddeus slipped on the landing of the Sonic Swing. Basically, he landed and was like, he's fell down a little bit. That gave Hunter the lead. Hunter was very fast on the ring section. Very impressive. Thaddeus got a little hung up on the rings. Hunter finished while Thaddeus was just starting the shelf. So a good win for the Lizard Kings. They're up 2-1. Relay time. Maggi was able to get a very slight lead for the women. For her team. However, Kevin Bull, he tried doing the middle portion of the floating tiles, and what did he do? He undershot one of them, and he did a front dive. I believe he undershot the first one, and he did a front roll on the second one as a result. He went down, and that gave Hunter a 5-second lead. As a result, he didn't need it because in attempting, he didn't need to go too fast because in an attempt to catch up, Thaddeus fell on the flying shelf grab. So Lizard Kings win 3-1. So second half of the first round, Iron Grip versus the InvincAbels, or the InvincAbels, as I like to say, because of how it's spelled. So first up for Iron Grip was Mathis Owhadi. So for those of you who don't remember, he was on Team Ninja Warrior College Madness. I believe he was in the first episode. He was, if I'm remembering correctly, he was on the team that made it to the relay showdown but lost in the first episode. His nickname is The Kid. He's 19 now, so he's allowed to compete on A&W, that's a subject I feel like I should talk about at some point. So the fact that the age limit has been lowered to 19 for the normal A&W season. He went up against Victor Juarez, who is known as El Animal, and Mathis is known as The Kid. Also, they dress the same. We got to address the fact Iron Grip and the InvincAbels, they both have basically the same uniform, which is red t-shirts. And they had similar hair. Mathis was wearing a hat. That's really the only way to tell them apart, but it was a black hat, so on the far shots, it's a bit hard to tell them apart. But basically, this was a good race. They were neck and neck the whole time, but Mathis was able to edge out Victor. Mathis finished in less than 37 seconds, 36.93 seconds, one of the fastest times. Very impressive for both of them. Victor probably would have won if he had faced anyone else, basically, just about anyone else. Then they fast forward the women, which I got a bit of problem with this because some of the profile pieces felt like they went a little long. Daniel Gill is definitely one that felt it went a bit long, and I get the whole you want to talk about the Hurricane Harvey thing because his family was affected by it because he's from Houston, but you didn't need that much time to talk about it. You could keep it quick and snappy and still, have it be effective. Let's not seep the A&W drama into Ninja versus Ninja. Thank you very much. Especially when, you could have at least fit in the women, I think, if you had trimmed down on some of the profiles. But the women got fast forward. Basically, in a shocking event, Tiana Webberley fell on the ring toss. Mary Beth Wang from the InvincAbels was able to clear, and we were tied 1-1. And especially, this race wasn't even that long because it ended 3 obstacles in. You could have fit it in. So third match was the captains, Daniel Gill versus Abel Gonzalez. It's like I said, they talked about Daniel Gill and Hurricane Harvey. Obviously, I hope his family recovered and all that, and just in Houston in general, it's a terrible thing to go through. I'm from Long Island, and we've gotten hit with a few tropical storms that were devastating in a few eras. I can't imagine what it'd be like to get hit with a full-on hurricane like that, as hard as they did. And Abel Gonzalez, I didn't know this. He has rheumatoid arthritis. he does really well for himself. Also, I'm glad they mentioned that he's like actually one of the few people in A&W history to reach stage 3. I feel like that's something he doesn't get enough credit about. Gotta keep my balance here. Basically, it was a pretty close race, but basically Daniel Gill got the lead on the rings. He kept the lead, and he finished first. And Abel finished closely behind, but wasn't good enough. So relay time. Basically, pretty simple overall with this race. In the beginning, Tiana got a lead for her team. Then Mathis got a bigger lead for his team, and finally Daniel Gill almost he had to hesitate. Because the third leg is they start staying on the trampoline, and when he turned around to jump, he's like, whoa, well, hold on. Need to take a step back, then jump. Woo! And he grabbed it, and he finished first. So the Iron Grip had the lead for the relay the entire time and won. So they win 3-1 and go up against the Lizard Squad. Lizard Kings, my bad. Lizard Kings. This is what happens when I talk without looking at my notes. So, once again, we're on the extended 9 obstacle course at this point. Mathis for Iron Grip versus Hunter for the Lizard Kings. This was a good race. This was a darn good head-to-head race. This might be like my favorite, at least on the extended course. This might be my favorite head-to-head race so far of the season. Basically, both guys, almost at the same time, dove underneath the net of the TikTok. Now to be clear, this is not the raised net that was during the first day of filming, because in some of the episodes, if you look, the net is raised higher up on the TikTok, and then they lowered it for later filmings. This was a lower one. They made it underneath the net without touching it on the TikTok. It's very impressive, essentially threading a needle. And so Mathis was finally, so Hunter, he got a lead on the rings. Mathis was able to take over the lead for the flying shelf grab. And he had the lead for almost the entire race. He got to the zigzag climb first. Hunter is close behind, very close behind, in fact. But Mathis stops to wipe his shoes. Oh, and all of a sudden, Hunter, he doesn't stop. He goes straight into it. And Mathis couldn't catch him, and Hunter finishes first. Very exciting race because they were close for almost the entire time. I loved it. I loved watching this. This was exciting. Like I said, favorite one-on-one race of the entire season so far. I'm not even just going to say of the extended course, just straight up favorite one-on-one race, definitely. And to Mathis' credit, like in order to not give him too much flack for wiping his shoes first. He was going slow on the zigzag climb. He wasn't going to catch Hunter anyway, even if he hadn't wiped his shoes. So he shouldn't feel too bad about that. Then the women, Tiana versus Sarah Schoback. There was a lot of bumping. There was a lot of bumping on the rings between these two, fighting for position. According to my notes, Sarah was able to get the lead at this point, but they were close the entire time. They both end up going down on the flying shelf grab. However, because Sarah reached the obstacle first, her team gets the point. Lizard Kings are up 2-0 at this point. And I'm at this point, because I don't know how much time is left, I'm getting the tweets ready. I'm thinking about how I'm going to start this video. I'm going to be like all, oh, I told you all. I told you sticking to my guns is going to work. Lizard Kings, #1. Boy, did that blow up in my face. Oh, boy. So, Daniel Gill versus Kyle Soderman. This was, the early part of this race was really good because they were I'm not the biggest fan of the ring toss, but the way this worked out was really cool. They're bumping. They're literally holding on to the same ring. They jump at the exact same time from the same point, essentially jumping in tandem, pretty much entwined with each other, and they land at the same time. Oh boy, that's going to be my thumbnail. I already know that. Really cool moment there. Basically, Daniel was eventually able to get the lead on the shelf grab, and Kyle tried to keep up with Daniel, but Daniel his experience gave him too much edge for the back half of the course, and he was able to finish first, keeping his team alive, forcing a relay race, or maybe even two. So, first relay race of this group of 5. Man, this relay was a disaster for Lizard Kings. Oh man, I have never seen a relay go worse than this one. Basically, Sarah Schoback went down on the TikTok. She jumped too short to the ledge, slipped off, and then that means Kyle Soderman had to endure a 5-second penalty. So we tried going fast, going straight through the middle portion of the obstacle, but he overshot the second pad and he went straight into the water, which meant Hunter Guerard now had a 5-second penalty. And in an effort to catch up, on the salmon ladder, he moved the bar too far to the right. The bar came off, he went flying down, which meant all 3 members of the Lizard Kings failed during the relay, and that meant that it was all tied up 2-2. Man, you could not ask for like a worse situation for the Lizard Kings, or for an easier win for Iron Grip, I guess. Yeah, you can put it that way. Obviously, Daniel Gill stopped because he's not going to waste his energy. So, final relay. This is it. Sudden death. Whoever wins, wins. Whoever loses goes to the wild card round. So, unfortunately, Sarah Schoback went down again on the relay, and this ultimately sealed the Lizard King's fate. She went down the rings. Kyle was able to get a little bit of ground on Mathis in the relay, and Hunter, it looked like he was also able to get a little bit of ground on the Mathis, but on Daniel Gill. But unfortunately, the 5-second penalty was just too much to overcome for them, and Iron Grip wins. Great comeback. This was Lizard King's match to lose, and they lost it pretty hard. Just too many wipeouts during the relays cost them. You really can't be wiping out, unfortunately. The good news for the Lizard Kings and my pick is that they got to compete in the wild card round. Iron Grip moves on to the playoffs. And just one other thing I wanted to mention. So what I find interesting about the relay and the 5-second penalty is that it's 5 seconds for both the shorter and the longer version of the course when you're doing the relay. Technically, that means the penalty is a bit more severe, in my opinion, for the shorter course when you're doing the relay, because there's less obstacles to compete on, which means there's less chance, there's less ground to make, there's less ground to catch up with. If you get what I'm saying. Basically, on the longer course, there's more of an opportunity to catch up because there's more time to gain. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making this clear. It's a bit weird, but basically, in my opinion, I think the 5-second penalty is a bit harsher on the first round when it's the shorter course for the relay. But anyway, let's talk about the next episode. So, only 2 more weeks left, and we got Phoenix Force, Najee Richardson, Cassie Craig, and Michael Torres versus Think Tank, Dr. Noah Kaufman, Leila Nguyen, and Matt Wilder. Think Tank's a very strong team. They made it to the top 8 last time, but I think Phoenix Force is going to beat them for various reasons. I think Think Tank, they might have benefited a bit too much from the old rule set. I think Phoenix Force has this. Then it's Team TNT, Travis Rosen, Emily Duran, and Brett Sint versus Frostbite, Nick Hansen, Zanique Levet, and Jackson Meyer. So Team TNT was the 3rd team on my top 3 back from the predictions, if I remember correctly. Also, they took 2nd place in both seasons of Team Ninja Warrior, as in 2nd place overall. So it's hard to pick. It's hard to go against them, honestly. I'm picking Team TNT to win both that match and the whole thing. And we'll see if I'm right next week when, once again, Ninja vs. Ninja will be airing Mondays after Monday Night Raw. Hopefully the ratings will improve. We'll have to see what happens. But Let me know what you thought. Leave me your thoughts in the comments below. What you thought, anything you liked, disliked, were you surprised at the ending? Did you watch it live on Monday? And if so, are you a wrestling fan, or did you just watch it despite not being a wrestling fan? Let me all that know. Make sure you subscribe for more coverage of Ninja vs. Ninja and a whole bunch of other Ninja Warrior related things. And until next time, thank you for watching.